Data, data, data. So many measurements, so little time. If you've ever wanted a reliable and easy, simple measure to find out how interesting your videos are, then you've come to the right place, because we've been working hard in Life's Potluck Buffet Laboratories to come up with a metric that will be simple and reliable. So stick around for today's episode of Life's Potluck Buffet. I'm John Paulus. Thanks for joining me. There are a lot of numbers in YouTube analytics. And, you've got click-through rate per impression. You've got duration of views, average duration of views. I mean, that's just like to scratch the surface. There's a lot of information that you have in there in that console where you could look at how many views you have on average on a day, and this and that. Where traffic sources are coming from, was it from a search? Was it from a browse feature? Just so much information. And all of that information is useful for something, I'm sure. But the useful thing, if you're looking for determining which of your videos is the most interesting, and that's why in the title card of today's episode, I use the word juicy, because the juiciness is the measure in Life's Potluck Buffet Laboratories that we've been using. And that's because the lemon trees are in bloom, and, we're thinking about all of the great lemon juice we're going to have coming up in about 9 months or more. So you ask, how juicy are my videos? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about how juicy some Life's Potluck Buffet videos are so that I can take you through the calculation. Oh, and then I'm going to give you tips based on that analysis. Okay, so it's a very busy video today. All right. First off, I have to say what the unit of measurement of juiciness is. And for those of you who are regular listeners, thank you for listening and subscribing. I really appreciate it. And take this opportunity to subscribe if you haven't. Definitely don't need to do that notification bell thing. I know it drives me crazy, and if you're anything like me, it probably drives you crazy too, so please don't worry about it. And thank you for subscribing. So, regular listeners will know that the elephant has been very important to Life's Potluck Buffet recently, both for surreal purposes and also because of the first video on YouTube, me at the zoo, featuring elephants and Javed Karim. So, the measure of juiciness of a video, how juicy is it? It's measured in elephants. And that's the measure. That's the metric. Now, I bet you want to know what the formula for the juiciness is, and how you calculate elephants. And here's how you calculate elephants. I'm going to use as an example the number in the title, which was for yesterday's video, the elephant in the ... room? Nah. So yesterday's video, if you haven't caught that video about the real OG elephant, where that OG elephant was and what that means for our expression, the elephant in the room, and thinking about everything that we do in work and in life. I know it's a big one, big topic. Check out yesterday's video, the last one, which was the elephant in the ... ellipsis, question mark. All right. So that video was 57.29 elephants. Now, how do you, which is that's an okay number. I mean, the larger the number of elephants, the better. Of course, what else? And so, it's okay. For 24 hours, it's probably not my best. It's not the best 24 hours a video has had by a long shot, but it's a good number of elephants. Okay, so then there's it's a relative based on the performance of your channel, how many elephants you generally have. I can I'll tell you how to do that as well. Okay, so let me show you how to calculate elephants. First, you're going to want to go to the analytics section of YouTube Studio, and you're going to want to go to the video analytics for whatever video you're looking at, and you want to go first to engagement, and that's the engagement tab. It's right below video analytics is overview, reach, engagement, audience. Go to engagement. You'll see the watch time in hours, which is a good number, great metric, but what we want for elephants is the average view duration. And in this case, for the elephant in the ... question mark, it was 3 minutes and 22 seconds. All right. So that was the average view duration, which is good. That's good. That's not bad. You know, people keeping people around for, 3 minutes and 22 seconds. That's honestly, for me, that's pretty good. As you probably know, if you're a listener, you're like, John, I already tuned you out 3 minutes ago. So if you're still listening at this point, I really thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, so average view duration, 3 minutes, 22 seconds. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to turn that 22 seconds into a number that is going to be able to be multiplied with another integer that's not in a base 60 system, because minutes are base 60. We want a base 100, base 10. I don't know what we call it. Anyway, you know what I mean. 100 being the largest number in the something. I think it's base 10. Anyway, so we don't want a base 60 system. And so what we do is you divide 22 by 60. Because there's 22 seconds and divided by 60 seconds in a minute. That'll tell you what percentage, in the form of a decimal, it is in terms of a integer that is the minute. Okay, so that was really an arcane explanation for that, but please bear with me. Just divide however many seconds you have in that average view duration by 60. And then what you do is you take the first number, in this case it's 3, and then you use whatever fraction you came up with. And in this case, it's 22 divided by 60. It is 0.366666666667. And so, it's 6 is forever. And so let's do it by 0.37. It's because that's fine for calculating elephants. So we do 3.37, and then all you need to do, and this is easy, this is why it's so easy. That was the hardest part. So we're past the hardest part of the calculation for elephants, is we then just want to multiply it by views. And in the first 24 hours here or so, well, it's less than 24 hours. But anyway, the first, whatever time interval it is now, this video, the elephant in the ... question mark, has had 17 views. All right, so we want to multiply 3.37 times 17. And voila, we have 57.29. I'm not going to say that in French, although I should have, after saying voila, you thought I might have. So that means that's 57.29 elephants. Good number. So that's how you calculate the juiciness of a video. And you say, well, how juicy was that video? 57.29 elephants. I say, oh, all right, that's pretty decent. Okay, for the first 24 hours. If it remains at that forever, it means that no one has viewed your video after the calculation happened, or they have and they're watching like 1 second of the video. So it tells you like how long are people sticking around watching your video, and how many people are watching your video. So that tells you how juicy it is, because if it's a lot of people watching it and they're watching it for a long time, then that's the juiciest possible video. And each video has to be kind of measured both with itself and with videos of similar length, and also with videos of similar views, because the odds are if you have a video at 17 views, in the first hour, your videos probably aren't getting like 1 million views in the first few days, So, you can use this as a relative measure. If all of a sudden you get like 1 million views and people are sticking around for 3 minutes, 20 seconds, and you have 3 million elephants, the 3.37 million elephants, then you're doing awesome. So, but you probably already knew that, so you probably didn't need the juiciness measure, but it's just fun anyway to figure that out. Okay. But if you don't have 1 million views, juiciness is really helpful. And why is it helpful? Because juiciness can tell you which of your videos are keeping people tuned in and are also bringing people in. So the juiciness measure, which I think this is a great measure, is because it tells you everything you need to know about the success of a video. Is it catching people's attention? And then is it living up to that attention that it's caught? Because it's not like, oh, well, I clicked on this because I saw the thumbnail and I saw the description and it's, it looks good, I'm going to click on it. And then you start watching and you're like, oh, I don't like this video. And then you stop watching. That's going to get you maybe a lot of views, but it's not going to get a lot of duration of view. And so it's not as good. And so for me, it helped me identify that a video that was like under the radar, and that's why juiciness has been helpful for me, is that I knew that among the most clicked through in terms of impressions, clicks per impression, the Rock at a Stoplight episode, where I both premiere a freestyled poem, The Rock at a Stoplight, and talk about a video that The Rock made where he rolls up on a celebrity tour bus in his neighborhood and makes people's days. And the video is about making people's days. My video is about making people's days. And so I knew that video was had a really high impression click-through rate, and it has a decent retention rate, but it's not as it didn't retain as many people for as long of a time as How to Sail into Your Port of the Future, which is a video in which I drew, using one of the Life's Potluck Buffet worksheets, I drew my port of the future, and that kept people around longer than average. That video was a real decent one for that. And then knowing relative to my other videos that it had a lot of views relative to average, when you multiply that more than usual average view duration to the greater than usual number of views, you see that is like a winning combination. So I can think about what I did in that video, how I did it, and how I kind of brought people into it and kept them there, and kept their interest. And so that's how juiciness helps you think about the content of your video. Now, finally, a couple of tips about the juiciness measure. One, obviously, you want to give people the opportunity to stick around, so you want to make a video of a decent length. But beyond that, because if you made a video that was like 3 minutes long and like everybody watched the whole 3 minutes, and you had a lot of views, then the juiciness is going to be pretty high. But you increase your odds of juiciness by having slightly longer videos. And so the second tip, and I think this is the kind of thing that really worked for the How to Sail into Your Port of the Future, was that I was doing a drawing And so, like, people were trying to see what I was up to. And it was a complex drawing, and I clearly kept people's interest in talking about it as I was doing it and so forth. And I talked about Bob Ross and a lot of different things. So it kept people tuned in on, more than usual. Final tip, and this is a really good one, I think, for enabling people, especially if you have a longer video. Like right now, this one is 15 minutes. So if you have a longer video like this one and it has chapters, I really suggest putting chapters in because, for example, in the video, my video, The Rock at a Stoplight, the poem The Rock at a Stoplight is marked out as in chapter form, so that people can click on the chapter in the description and or see it in the bar of the video. You've seen those chapters before, and if you haven't, just look at that video or many of my videos that have chapters, though not all of them do. But nonetheless, putting those chapters in is great because then a lot of people just kind of went straight to the Rock at a Stoplight, and that enabled me to keep people's attention after they would have maybe not stuck around at all in the video if I didn't mark out the fact that that's where the poem was that I talk about earlier in the video that I was going to freestyle. And so that, I think, is a real good tip. So the length of video, the keeping people's interest, and that's not a trick. The keeping people's interest is talking about things that keeps people's attention. It's hard. That's the hardest part of those three tips. But the third tip is the have the chapter. And if there's something interesting in your chapters, people will go for it, and then that will add to your average view duration, and it will also give you a sense of where the juiciness is located in your video, because you can actually go down another level, and by looking at the chart that they give on YouTube of the average view duration, where people dropped in, what percentage stuck around at various points, you can see that the where the juiciness is in a video and why. And that's how I built those tips out, right? So give it a shot. Calculate the juiciness of your videos in Elephants, and let me know in the comments some of your higher numbers that you have for juicy videos. Thanks for tuning in as always. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. And I'll see you next time on Life's Potluck Buffet, and may your videos be juicy and your life full of elephants.